Well, hello there. Thank you very much for watching this. This is worth one CEU point, and my suggestion is that everybody in the chapter can actually watch this because it's important that even if you are not a visitor host, and even if you're not participating in the visitor orientation, it'd be great for you to know what happens, wouldn't it? So this is as short a training as I can possibly think of doing for you, and I'm going to share my screen with you. This is what happens after the meeting. It's not even after the meeting. During the meeting. During the meeting, at one point, the president will say, visitors, what's impressed you the most about the meeting? And they might call on all of the visitors if you don't have a time constraint, or they might only call on a few. And at that point, we will explain to them that we would appreciate them considering an application and that we'd like to invite them to please stand up, accept our gratitude. So we all clap, thank them, and invite them to separate from the group so that the members stay in the room and the visitors go to an orientation. And in that orientation, this is what happens. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to share my screen, and it's screen number 2. There you go. So you do not need a PowerPoint. This is simply to show you what we're going to do. Now, first of all, how many people need to go out with the visitors? It's certainly not a lot of people unless you have a lot of visitors. The ratio, in my mind, should be about 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. So if you have 4 visitors, you only need 1 person to go out there. If you have 6, you need 2 people to go out there. And if you have 5, it's probably better to have 2 people go out there. All right? So 1 to 4 should be the maximum, I think. If you've got 10 visitors, you're definitely going to want to have 3 people who are trained in this process, because we don't want a big group of people. We actually want small groups that are more intimate. So that's number 1. The ratio is important, and the visitor coordinator should identify how many people are needed early in the meeting during the open networking. We find out how many visitors are there, and we say, all right, we're going to need 3 people to go out with the visitor orientation. You, and you can do that. Okay? Who should be the people doing the visitor orientation? It's the people who have the most passion, the people who have great listening skills, and the people who understand this process. So it could be anybody in the chapter. It doesn't have to be the visitor hosts, because the visitor hosts have a lot to do. Getting there early, doing work before the meeting, doing work after the meeting. So put your best people onto this call, because this is really powerful. All right, here's the sample agenda. You don't need the slides, but the first thing you do is you thank them for coming. So you separate them into groups, you thank them for coming. So I'm now in a group of 3. What impressed you the most about the meeting? And I let each one of them answer. Now, if they've already told us what impressed them the most about the meeting, we can say, thanks so much for sharing that with us. Do you have anything to add? What else would you like? So we want to get them talking. We don't want to do all the talking. So we want them to say thank you. All right? So we thank them for coming. We want them to say it was great. All right? We get them in a positive mindset. Then we hand them a handout. This handout should be printed by a printer, and it should be 1 page, not a page stapled together, but 1 page. It should be nicely printed in color, and you should have these on hand, all right? And each person who's doing the orientation would need 3. If they had 3 people they were talking to, or 4 if they had 4 people they were talking to. So you should have these ready, and don't give these handouts to people before the meeting. Give them to them now during the orientation. Here's something for you to take home. This will enable you to answer some questions, because we would like to invite you to consider putting in an application to our chapter. And so this is for you to take home. So that's all you need to do. All right, you've given them that. Now, you should share with them a couple of things. See how right at the top of one of these, so let me go back. Here's the handout, and this section says business without BNI and life with BNI. Well, we want you to simply share your story about one of these things. So you point out that this brochure covers things like what you get out of BNI and how it's different than when you're alone. And you share your story, but only about one item. You do not walk them through everything on this sheet. So let's say that for you, this one was very clear. Without BNI, you were served too few inconsistent business referrals with a weak referral network. You didn't have referrals coming to you. You were doing a lot of social media and you were trying to do it that way. You were doing a lot of advertising. You were working on your website but you weren't getting good referrals. And instead, now you've got a network of business owners who know how to give meaningful referrals and training on how to leverage it. So that was the benefit you got. So you can tell them your story. You don't need to read it to them. You simply tell your story. Okay, so that's one person to three people, and that's the first story you tell. The second story you tell is about the 10 commitments to grow your business. These are on the back of the piece of paper. All right, the back of the piece of paper. So what you want to do is point these out as a group on the handout, but don't read them out. So all you need to do is say, listen, on the brochure on the back, it shares what the 10 commitments are that BNI offers to help grow your business. So have a look at that when you're on your own time and really enjoy that. Okay, so those are the two things you point out. The other thing that you point out is that you are invited to apply for membership. The word apply is really important here because we want them to apply for membership. They can't join BNI. They can apply to join BNI. So please use the right words and say, we would encourage you to apply for membership. And there's 3 easy steps. 1, you complete the online application, and we are going to send you one in an email. And you'll receive that in an email. And if you don't get it, we would be happy to provide it to you. All right, we can get it for you. Then the membership committee will review your application, and if you're accepted, you'll start the member success program, which will help you get the training and the experience that you need to really take advantage of the system and get the benefits right away. All right, so you explain that, and that's a takeaway for them. Now, one more thing about the brochure is if you have the most current brochure, it also has a BNI Discovery link on it. They can use that link to register for BNI Discovery on the Wednesday afternoons and come and see more information about what BNI is and why it works. Okay, so that's all on that one handout. Okay, now the BNI membership fees. Again, you don't need this slide, but you do need to know what the fees are so that you can answer their questions. The annual membership is $1,397. The training and onboarding fee, which you only have the first year that you become a BNI member, is $803, and the total investment is $2,200 for a first year member. All right. And what you want to make sure that you tell them is that the average Australian member value is about $75,000 per year. So the investment, if you take it on a per month basis, is just over $100 a month on the annual membership fee. And absolutely, how many referrals will it take for you to actually make that money back? Ask them that question. How many referrals would you need to get in order to make that money back? And think about the activity that you saw us go through today. All right? So you do not need to memorize or show this slide, but you do need to know those dollar amounts. So maybe for the first few times that you give this presentation or conversation, you actually have a little index card that reminds you what to talk about, and those numbers might be on it. Okay, you also want to let them know about your chapter dues. So membership fees are different than your chapter dues. And the words are pretty important because membership fees are managed by me in the regional office, and chapter dues are managed by you in the chapter, and your treasurer manages those. So you'll want to let them know that there are also chapter dues that are payable to the treasurer that handle all of the meeting costs and all the marketing requirements of the chapter. Okay, now, for more information, they can join the BNI Discovery Call, and that's where the link is. And then you thank them, and that's it. Great. Thanks for joining us. Happy to answer any questions you have, or to introduce you to anyone that you would like to meet. And then you answer their questions, because they will have some. And then you get to say, we can now go back to network with the rest of the chapter. And the rest of the chapter is doing the member announcements. You guys are doing the visitor orientation. You come back together and you make sure that open networking can then continue after the meeting, because the meeting's not over until those two events happen. All right? Now, it's really important that you make notes about the follow-up required for the 3 people that you were talking to. All right? And I'm going to share that with you now on this next slide. The visitor segmentation that you're going to want to do are these 4 different areas. Members of other chapters. Thank them for coming. There's no visitor host follow-up for them. Nothing required. So that's boop, done. In fact, your chapter may decide that BNI members don't need to leave the room to go to the visitor orientation. That is perfectly acceptable by me and perfectly acceptable practice. But if you would like for those BNI members to go out, that's also acceptable practice. You just need to be able to segment them out. Then there are substitutes who work in the same business as your members. Thank them for coming. There is no visitor host follow-up required for them either. You don't need anything else to do. Just thank them for coming and for substituting for their fellow members. All right? Then there are visitors and substitutes that are in open categories. All right? If they're in open categories, you need a follow-up system for them. And that is what you need to do in your WhatsApp channel. So let's say you had 3 people with you and all 3 of them were in open categories and you would like to consider that they'd be good for your membership. Go back to your WhatsApp channel for visitor hosts and type those 3 names in right away. Get them in right away and say, we need to follow up with X, Y, and Z. Okay? And at least capture it right away before you forget. And then what about the visitors or subs who are in obviously closed categories? Like you have an electrician and there's an electrician who's visited. All right. Well, you can email an introduction to the concierge at bnisne.com.au and right away do that introduction and get it done so that you don't have to think about it anymore. And then Karen, who is our concierge right now, she will continue to be for the foreseeable future. I'm just saying that because we are going to have more concierges than just Karen at some point. But Karen Vickers will take great care of them and she'll reach out to them right away, which will be better. If we can get back to these people within 24 hours, when they're visitors or subs in open categories, we want you to get in touch with them as a visitor host team. And when they're in closed categories, we want Karen to get in touch with them. So that's how to segment the visitors. And you guys, that is the end of my presentation. So I want you to know it's so super important that we do this well. The visitor orientation will help us to increase our conversion rates for the right people. And it'll ensure that we aren't wasting our time inviting good quality candidates only to leave them not knowing what the next step is and how to take it. All right? We're here to help you every step of the way. Your ambassador is going to be able to help you, and they will come out and observe the visitor orientation in order to give you hints and tips about how to sharpen it up and make it great. I hope you've enjoyed this training. Don't forget, I know it wasn't a whole hour worth of training, but if you've made it to the end, I want you to take a full CEU point and add that to your chapter education units, because this is really powerful information. And I hope that as a group, your chapter at your next chapter success meeting can talk about who are the best people to deliver the visitor orientation so that your chapter can continue to grow. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.